I'm Jason UFC, and today we have a story about Colby Chaos Covington mocks former UFC fighters who he claims are UFC washouts brawling on. Okay, I can't. I don't think I can say that because the YouTube algorithm. But fighting for the BKFC bare knuckle boxing is quickly becoming one of the most action-packed and entertaining forms of combat sports. But UFC welterweight Kobe number one contender, Colby Chaos Covington, remains unimpressed. Colby Chaos Covington is not a fan of bare knuckle boxing. The number one ranked, isn't he number one ranked welterweight contender who is expected to challenge Leon Edwards for the UFC 170-pound championship at some point later this year, is only interested in combat sports where athletes competing at the top of the food chain, not, quote, UFC washouts fighting at Taco John's event centers in Wyoming. Look, I thought this guy was all about America. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what are we talking about here, right? Easy bashing. Come on. To be honest, I've never watched one of those fights. Kobe Chaos Covington told James Lynch, "I'm not interested in a sport like that, and especially nonetheless of guys who are just UFC washouts. These are just guys that are going to fight in at okay, I'm not gonna say that because of the YouTube algorithm, because they couldn't make it in the UFC. So we're talking about the biggest and best business and the biggest and best fights, and that's only in the UFC. It's the best organization in the world." Okay, some of the UFC veterans competing currently for BKFC over the years have included former middleweight champion Luke Rockhold, ex lightweight champion Eddie Alvarez, Chad Mendes, a couple of UFC losses. Okay, I'm gonna have to get into that. Okay, yeah, I mean, I don't know if they asked Kobe Chaos Covington about his opinion about slap boxing, but I mean, as far as, talking about, let's say, former UFC fighters have done many things. They've gone on to acting careers, they've gone on to announcing careers, they've gone on to other organizations, they've become champions in Bellator, they've become champion in PFL, they've become champions in one fighting championship, they've become champions in bare knuckle fighting championship. So, I wouldn't go out as far to say that, only the best athletes compete in the UFC, and once you're outside of the UFC, you're quote washout. And also, Kobe Chaos Covington, he's this, America that. I'm a little bit surprised that he's, taking shots at quote unquote Taco John event centers in Wyoming, right? I wouldn't expect words like that, but people would say, "Oh, that sounds like coastal talk. That sounds like New York, San Francisco talk. People who quote unquote fly over the country." You know what I'm saying? You would expect someone like Kobe Chaos Covington, who claims to love America and America this and America that. He wouldn't take shots at quote small event centers in places like Wyoming, right? But let me know your opinion of this story. Basically, not your opinion about Kobe Chaos Covington, because he's talking crazy. I can't even say, some of the things he said in this article, not because I disagree with them, right? But because of the YouTube algorithm. My channel will be demonetized, canceled, and wiped from the entire internet if I quoted everything Kobe Chaos Covington said here. But just because I disagree with him doesn't mean, I don't think he should say it. I don't think he said anything over the line. It's just, the algorithm. But let me know your opinion about BKFC. I'm personally not a fan of bare knuckle fighting championship. I've seen a few fights there, but I'm not tuning in because there's a former UFC fighter fighting or anything like that. I'm not a fan of slap boxing, but I am a fan of other UFC promotions, other MMA promotions besides the UFC. Even though I am an MMA casual, I support fighters in Bellator. I'm a big fan of Bellator, PFL, one fighting championship. But, I don't consider them washouts if you're not in the UFC. But I'm Jason, UFC, and today we had a story about Colby Covington mocks former UFC fighters as UFC washouts fighting for BKFC. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the $1 donation button, and please tune in to the next video on this channel. Thanks a million for watching.